YouTube? Sane Frank here. Today's video, this is a Hobby Talk Tuesday. I wanted to do a video for a long time, and this week there wasn't a whole lot going on. So I wanted to do a video on the psychology of grading cards. And the company that I use is PSA. So that is a company that uses human graders to grade cards. So by nature, human psychology will play a role in your cards getting graded. And I know some people will think I'm crazy, but there are a lot of signs that point towards, psychology taking an effect on your grading cards. Now, I've watched a lot of people's PSA reveals and stuff. And I have noticed this can be work in your favor or against you. And that is sending multiple cards of the same card in on one order. Now you watch, there's plenty of videos out there. If someone is grading, let's say 5 or 6 of the same card, you almost invariably the grader will give like half, let's say they're all mint condition. The grader will give about half of them PSA 10s and half PSA 9s. So I use that human tendency. I try to avoid that. I try to send cards in. I won't, even though I have several of the same card, I'll split them up in different orders because I want them all to get 10s. And I feel like I have a better chance of getting more of that card graded as a PSA 10 than if I put them all in one order where half and half get PSA 9s and PSA 10s. Now, for example, like I might try to do that with this card. I'm thinking about cracking these out. They're both PSA 8s, both graded on different orders, by the way. And I could not find anything wrong with the cards, but the grader saw something with both of them. Now these two cards I actually will probably send on the same order because I think, and maybe I'll be proved wrong, but if I send these two cards, bust them out of these cases, send them in on the same order, I think one will get a higher grade and one will get a lower grade. So my hope is that maybe I'll get 110, 19, or maybe 19, 18. But the chances of me getting 2 8s on the same card in the same order with just 2 cards, I think, are unlikely. And I've done that with other cards before, and it hasn't worked out every time, but it does help. And also, guys, there's a huge swing of variance from grader to grader. I mean, that's human grade. One grader might see something a little more strictly than another grader, and you can send a card in on one submission and get a 9. You send it in again, crack it out, send it in again, get a different grader, and that card gets a 10. I've done it before. I've proven it on the channel. It just comes down to which human is grading your cards. And another thing, guys, if you put yourself in the mindset of the card grader. If you're doing an order, and let's say you have John Doe's order, and he sends you 50 of the same exact card in the submission, and you have to grade that pile of 50 cards, it's going to wear on you looking at the same card over and over and over again. And I think it's going to cause the grader to not look at them as closely, and he's just going to give you half 10s, half 9s, and then throw some 8s in there for good measure. And he's probably not going to be in the best of moods having to look at the same card over and over 50 times. So when I'm looking at a stack of cards, I like to see different cards. So whenever I do orders, I like to put as many different cards as I can in an order so that, it's refreshing, maybe a little fun for the grader to look through those cards and grade them. They're not looking at the same card over and over again. That's one aspect of psychology and grading. Another one is, like I said with this, sending in 2 maybe 4 of the same card. If you really, really, really want to get one of them as a 10, instead of sending them in separate orders, maybe use that psychology to your advantage. If you're just wanting one, if you send multiple nice cards in, you'll probably get a 10 on one of those cards at least. If they're all mint. They're going to see the best one of your bunch and probably say, well, I'm going to give that one a 10. And then your worst one of the bunch, they'll probably give it the 8. Another thing that I do, okay, this is easier to show. This is a future PSA submission that I haven't sent in yet. But I try to arrange the cards in an order that will help me get the cards I want to get 10s. Now this first card, I think it could get a 10, but to me, it would be a really weak 10. So I'm going to put this card first because the cards I really want 10s are after this. So the grader's going to look at this card and say, let's say he gives it a 9, okay? And then the next card is a card that I think is a better card than this first one. And so the grader's going to look at that and see the same things I am, hopefully. And he might say, this card was better than the last one. I graded this a 9. I'll give this a 10. And then so on and so forth. And this card, I really want this in a 10. I'm hoping that he'll chain it up to a 10. And this one, and so on and so forth to get to this card. And then I do that in little runs in the order. Like this card, I don't really care if it gets a 10. I know this card isn't going to get a 10, so I just kind of stuck it in front of some other Star Wars cards. That way, they'll see these and be like, wow, this card is much nicer than this last card I just looked at. Higher chance of this getting a 10. And so on and so forth. And just build up. And then, here's another run. I think this card might get a 9. I want some other ones that I really want 10s on. I put them after that. So that the card grader's eye is constantly seeing, oh, I graded that last one a 10, this has to be a 10, and so on and so forth. So you could do your whole order that way, and it'd be really interesting to see how that works out. Like go through and, you know, put a grade them yourself, you know, give a mental grade, and then try putting them in the order, like from the lowest grade to the highest grade, and see if the grader follows suit, if you know what I mean. When he looks at that first card, he says, well, this is a 9. Get him at a starting point, and then put your best cards in order after that, and he'll almost have to give you 10s after that. These are human beings that are grading your cards, guys, so use that to your advantage, you know. Think like they would think. They're human just like you. So if you're putting a real boring order together, they're probably not going to, you know, be in a great state of mind doing your order. You put a really exciting, interesting order with a bunch of different types of cards in there. I think it's going to keep their attention. Plus, here's another thing. This is another psychology of card grading. I think at PSA, they have certain graders that look at Pokemon cards. They have certain graders that look at non-sports. They have certain graders that look at Star Wars, Marvel, you know, baseball, vintage baseball. So they try to keep you in certain categories when you make submissions. But lately they've been kind of making orders where you can mix up stuff. So I think sometimes you can get some really good grades on cards. Like, I will say, for example, vintage Pokemon cards. If you send in an order with all vintage Pokemon cards, that order is probably going to be graded by someone who specializes in vintage Pokemon cards. Now, if you're doing one of these newer orders that they've been putting out, newer specials where you can just send in anything, sneak in a few vintage Pokemon cards along with the other stuff, and you might get a one grader that's not really specialized in those areas, and you might get a better grade on some of those cards than you would have got with the guy that always looks at vintage Pokemon cards. I know it sounds kind of sneaky, but On some of the orders I've gotten back recently, I feel like that's what's happened. I've gotten a way better grade than what I usually get on a vintage Pokemon card because I didn't get the normal vintage Pokemon card grader. I got someone that maybe is newer. It could also work in the opposite way too, though, guys. If someone might see your card and is not used to grading that type of card and could get a worse grade than normal, but I think card graders, usually the ones that get to be experts and specialize in a certain card, are going to grade your cards tougher. So if you mix everything up, when you can, you might get a card grader that's not overly picky on that certain type of card. Now, I don't work at PSA. I'm just guessing, just theorizing from orders I've done. I've done quite a few orders now, and you tend to see certain things, especially, and you guys are seeing them too, because I show all my reveals and my submissions on camera. So maybe you guys are catching some of these trends as well. But yes, definitely utilize human psyche, human psychology in making your orders. And you know what? If you can help it, don't make a gigantic order. It's nice to only have to ship one package to them, but think about that about the grader. Is it great? Do you want the grader groaning that, oh man, here's another 500 card order I got to get through? Make them smaller. Make them more exciting for the grader to look through. And I guarantee you, they're going to be a better frame of mind, and a happier grader is going to give you funner grades. I can almost guarantee you. They're human. All right. Please, guys, put down in the comments, am I insane for having these thoughts about grading? Do you think there's something to psychology in grading? Or do you think they're all like robots that only follow set guidelines and never vary from them? We know that's not true because you can send the same card in over and over and you'll get different grades every time. Yes, it makes grading look stupid, I know. But if you really want 10s, if you want to, I like getting 10s. I don't have to get 10s, but definitely if I'm selling a card, I really want to get a 10 because you can get way more money if you're selling a card as a PSA 10 than a PSA 9. So you want to maximize your gem mint rate as much as you can. What tricks do you guys have? Maybe we can learn from each other. I'm not the only person that grades cards. What type of human psychology techniques do you guys use in your grading? I think this is going to be a really interesting discussion. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos, and good luck on your card grading. It seems like card grading prices are coming down. So if you have some cards you've been holding off grading, go check PSA. They're starting to have some nice specials. I think they're going to get even lower, is my prediction. So the time is going to be coming where some people might get back into the grading game. Anyway, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos later.